Please welcome Dr. Louise Mahler.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, in fact. And it's a great room full of a whole heap of fabulous women. Now, I appreciate the men in the room. Okay, I've got that. Now, funnily enough, I just spent a weekend at a retreat with a room full of men. And let me tell you, it never fails to fascinate me. They just do things different. Now look at this man's smiley little face down here. But men tend to just sit there like this. And it's been really well researched. I'm not making it up. They don't have the same sort of audience participation need that women do. You know, I looked out and you were going, oh, you know, yes, yes. You know, they just go, And the thing is, of course, you know, for the men in the room, you know there's only one thing worse than a room full of men. That's right, a room full of women, yes. So I'm not having a go at the men. But the thing is, it's very easy to actually think, you know, they're too aggressive and you're too this. And people ask me all the time, what do you do when somebody's too this? Or what do you do when, you know, that sort of situation? And really, the reality comes down to it that actually, to some extent, we can't really change other people's behaviour. You know, we're not going to change the whole population of men. What we need to focus on is bringing our whole self to the engagement and actually not altering them, but looking at ourselves and how we respond in every way. And a little metaphor for that I love is this. This is actually, looks like a glass bowl, but it's a crystal bowl. And it just fascinates me every time, is that this bowl just looks like a bowl. Until actually you do this. Amazing? And we're all like crystal bowls, but a lot of the time what we're trying to do is this. And we're actually, can you feel how annoying that is? We're actually trying to somehow alter who we are. So taking the frame that we're altering who we are rather than altering others, the way that we alter ourselves sometimes ends up in thwarting. And what we need to do is actually explore your full resonance of who you are instead. So my message is, does that work? Sorry, I'll just get this right. No. Would you love to pass that to the next slide, Mr. Music? Ah, there we go, great. And the next one is to be yourself. Yay! So, how are we going to be yourself? That's the thing. I'd love to do some skills. And it's about, again, finding your full resonance. So, on the count of 3, what I'd love you to do is just to take a deep breath. It's that easy. So I'll count to 3. Could we take a deep breath? Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. And breathe out. Now, I just love what I see when I see that. And I see the whole room lift like helium balloons. Did anyone do that? Did anyone lift in some way or see someone at the table? We do it so often. And yet, we weren't born doing that. That is not actually where we should be seeing breath. And I shouldn't be able to catch you out in that way. I shouldn't be able to see you lift your upper body when I ask you to breathe in. And if you were doing it now, then what happens is it's very likely that when you stand in front of a group, you will do the same thing. And you'll breathe in high and you think, well, I'm taking a deep breath to relax. The problem with this is, it's not very relaxing. Not only is it not very relaxing, it looks stupid. Not only does it look stupid, but I've actually got not very much oxygen in my body. It's highly ineffective. And what happens is the organ of the body that takes the most oxygen is what? The brain. And so the brain gets no oxygen. And don't you see this? People get up and go, and it's like we get taken over by aliens, you know, and then we go, I get taken over by aliens, so what do? You know, I don't present. Well, there's a reason for it, and it's this high breath, and of course, even more critical than that is that we squash the throat. When you lift your chest high, you squash the throat. Now, as women, our voices are an octave higher than men's, so we're kind of out of the leadership game because the voice of leadership is perceived as being low. Now I pushed it up even higher. Now I'm starting to shake because I have a high breath. And I am becoming completely unattractive in every way, vocally. And it's not a good look, it's not a good sound, it's not a good psychological message. So our very first skill is actually to get in touch with our new very best friend, which is the diaphragm. Where is the diaphragm? People tell me the weirdest stuff. They go, ooh, it's here, you know, I don't know. The diaphragm actually attaches on to the bottom of the ribs and goes all the way around. So it goes, actually cuts us completely in half. And that diaphragm is soft, soft. It's like a trampoline. So actually, when we breathe in, so I asked you to breathe in. When we breathe in, our best place for expansion in our body is not in our upper body. It's too heavy, too hard, and has all those negative repercussions. Instead, our best place is to sink that trampoline of a diaphragm into the soft parts of the body. And I like to say I put on weight specially to demonstrate this, but actually I'm just fat. So, it actually, where we see breath is as the diaphragm goes down. That's where we see breath, is down here. And in my singing background, I promise you, I bet there's people in here who sing. In Europe, when you walk up to audition, this is all you get to do. Walk to here and then stand here. That's all you get to do. And if you don't get it right and get it down here, if you go in any way, get off. You don't get to sing. They won't hear it. You're a waste of space. You're too much of a high risk in a performance sense. The breath has to be seen down here. So why is it that and we are born with it down there because the diaphragm moves in that way, presses down into the body, and we don't expand out the bottom, the back, the sides. In fact, that's where we see the expansion. Although the lungs are here, that's where we see the expansion. Why is it then that we choose, even at a lunch, to breathe high, but very often in front of groups, even at a boardroom table or presenting? Why does that happen? Beg your pardon? Yeah, anxiousness. And what does that stress response do? New best friend, the diaphragm. Instead of the diaphragm being soft, the diaphragm jams hard. It jams rock hard. It's like, this is my prop, it's like there's a string that does that to you. So you're born in the morning, breath is down low in your body. Suddenly you think, oh no, I've got that meeting. This jam, suddenly we're breathing high, and then we have all those repercussions. And people say, maybe they say, my voice shakes. Well, voices don't shake, bodies shake. And we've got to remove that tension from the upper body. So our first skill is to recognise where the diaphragm is. Next is we've got to unjam the bastard. He's jammed. Diaphragm will jam. Now, who was saying to me, they heard me speak before and said, now, did you want any drugs before you speak? And that's a joke, because actually one way of unjamming the diaphragm is drugs. Another way is what? Alcohol is another way. And another way is laughter, of course. The definition of laughter is a bouncing diaphragm. But we're going to learn a technique when you can't do drugs, you can't drink alcohol, and it's not very funny. So what we're going to do is put your hands on your stomach, please. And I would love you not to breathe in, but to breathe out. Are you ready? Count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Great. Hands up if your stomach went out. See, that's most people. Hands up if your stomach went in. Big prize. Hands up if you've got no idea what you're doing. Yeah. You know, these patterns of being held are very psychologically connected. And when that diaphragm holds, it's a defense mechanism, and we don't let it go easily. We don't go, oh, I see, Louise is explaining the diaphragm should be free. Let me release that. No. The unconscious mind just goes, you've got to be serious. She's crazy. You know, don't risk it. And it finds it very hard. So we have to be very clear about what does happen. And actually, the stomach goes in for the breath out. Now, anyone who's done yoga, Pilates, martial arts, or any form of activity knows I'm not teaching you anything weird. That's the reality of a natural breath. So we force that to happen. Could you put your hands to your stomach, please? And we're going to breathe out. And now people cheat. So what I need you to do is just check the person next to you and make sure that their stomach goes in. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Did it go in? No, I bet it's going, I don't know what I'm doing. So keep practicing, in it goes. Now, I want to hear your best breath. I would love you to give me all the air that you've got this time. I want your stomach to go in. I want you to give me lots of air. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Because what happens when you give air from low in the body is it says to me that you care, that you're engaged, that your whole body is unstressed, and you are connecting with me. Now, to put that into practice, it's hard. In fact, that's a technique that you use off stage in singing to unkick the diaphragm. And in fact, you often walk around off stage going, keeping the diaphragm free, because if it's free, then you walk on stage and you can actually do it. Now, I don't think that's going to work for you in your boardroom. So instead, we have exactly the same exercise, but it's used in corporate context to unjam that diaphragm, recognize it does jam, unjam it, by actually doing what I call the cover cough. We go, can you see the cover cough is actually an unjamming the diaphragm exercise. We're kicking the stomach in hard and fast. We know it goes in. And bang, we're kicking the diaphragm. It's not a relaxing technique. It's an energizing technique. Bang, like that. And getting it back. It's like a reset button on the computer. So could we try the cough, please? Excellent. I'd love you to incorporate that into real life. So imagine that you were standing up here. At the table, what you might do is just sit there. No one will notice. And then just before you come up, the old cough, kick the diaphragm free. So having done that, all we need to do now is vibrate the vocal folds. So it's high, high, high. And that little baby that was born this morning, that's how it would be breathing. High. You know, it's sort of at the age 2.5 that we start to develop the technique of jamming the diaphragm chronically. Before that, little babies, if you've got a little baby at home, they all do it the right way. So that ha, 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 it's all down here. So, for your sound initiation, could you please turn again to the person next to you and say, hi. Hi. Excellent. Hi. Hi. Yeah, well done. Hi. Hi. Can you see how it works? Hi. Hi. Did you do it? Did you do it? Yeah? Brilliant. Don't forget it. Initiating sound high, on demand, from the lower part of the body. The American Indians did it to show that they were the leader. They would walk forward. They did everything to show they were the leader. They wear headdress. They'd wear capes. They'd be carried up high by other people to show they were the leader. But one of the critical ways they showed it was when they greeted, they went, howl. Howl. And they called it inhabiting the body with sound, instead of doing what we do, which is, hello. Hello. Voice is a choice. You know, if voice is a choice, why would you choose this one? Hello. And we do it all the time. So, hi. People read it as dominance. Now, as leadership, I beg your pardon, in leadership, actually, the voice of leadership, they have analysed 3 qualities that are the voice of leadership. They are that the voice of leadership, people perceive you as a leader if your voice is low. If your voice is low, you'll be perceived as a leader. If your voice is loud, you will be perceived as a leader. If your voice, Kevin Rudd, is slow, you will be perceived as a leader. Have you noticed that Kevin's gone low, slow and loud? My favourite thing Kevin does is with his mouth, because when he gets stressed, he seals his mouth. And he seals it tight. So you can tell when Kevin's stressed because the mouth stops opening. Like that. But at the moment, he's in top form. And he's low, slow, and loud. Now, as a woman, and mostly women in the room, what happens is that people have followed this. So that's what Margaret Thatcher did. She went low, slow, and loud. If you were to stand up here, or if I were to stand up here and say, good morning, everybody. As Australians, we have a bullshit detector that can sniff lack of authenticity at least 100 paces. So, you know, you can't do that. You can't fake it to make it. Can't do it. All you can do is, as we were saying, bring who you are to what you do. Be your true self. And to do that, you have to be very aware of the breath initiating sound. How, high, high, high. Now, we need to practice it, because the next time you're in front of a group or at a meeting, it is too late to suddenly be thinking, which way did the hello? It's too late. So I need you to be practicing it all the time, every time, to get this initiation right. So here's a little exercise, and it's the old shaking hands. As you shake hands, slot the hand in and say, hi. Hi. We're multitasking now, aren't we? We're using the hand and the breath, and we're initiating sound. So could you greet the people at your table, please? Network. Hi, 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 hi. 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 Yep. Now, the next thing is that having got the air down low, can you see how you could practice that quite a lot at every engagement? You could settle yourself high by unjamming the diaphragm, getting your air out, getting those communications of wanting to care. Now, having got that out, you know, we actually massage people with our sound. We think, oh, there's nothing between us. It's blank. It's not blank. There's air between us, and that air vibrates. And we massage people with our sound. And funnily enough, people trust people whose air continues to flow. So when you speak and your air continues to flow, that's actually the voice of trust. You can take a breath and then you speak again and your air continues to flow. And that builds, it massages people to think, oh, trust, trust, trust. Now, I think it's one of the major failings of Tony Abbott that he bounces. He bounces. And when he bounces, he breaks his air. He breaks his air. And we don't trust people who break their air. I'd love to talk to him about it. You know, the problem is, one of the messages is, if you're going to practice and improve, do it before you're Prime Minister. You know, because I was at a conference the other day and I was being very polite, and I said to a fellow who's very high in education next to me, I said, I think Julia's personal presence was a major downfall. And he turned to me angrily and he said, the major downfall. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. Julia does some very odd things, and what happens is that this is not a political statement, and it's actually not personal about her. Physically, it's about her posture, is that Julia, actually, we get power in our lower body. Yes! Once we've got the sound down, you know, singers lean backwards. You might have seen that. They sit on sound. We don't go, ah, like that, because you strangle yourself. But Julia, you see this, physically leaves her power behind. You see that, don't? And to see Julia walk downstairs is a form of torture. She goes like that, and the same upstairs. Now, what happens with that is if I leave my power behind, I don't have anywhere to access power except at my head. Yeah, at my head. Because Australians, and that's where you get it from. And it's as though the only thing you're bringing to the engagement is the head. But you know, for those of you who are lawyers, you know, people, it's chronic in the law profession. People throw their head at you. And we, hello, 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 hello. It's called the chook. It's called the chook, and it's very strangled, and we do it more under stress. So again, it's about being aware of what you do and changing it. So our exam might be this. We'll try. Our exam is to alter the pitch, because psychologically we stress out when the pitch gets altered. So let's try. Ah. Yes, it's a sung note. Are you ready? Stomach goes in. Ah. Now, as trustworthy women, we want the air to flow. So let's try a few notes like ah. Let's get it flowing. Let's get in tune. You ready? Ah. Mouth open. How far is the mouth open? 2 fingers. Ah. Ah. Now, where do we feel sound? We don't feel it in the chest, we feel it under here. Mm. So could we hum, please, and feel the sound here? Mm. Now let's put that together and try. Amazing grace, how sweet. So, if there's anything you're going to do, it's take singing lessons. I'm going to make that compulsory when I'm queen, is to take singing lessons. So we've got our air flowing. We know we can play from the game with our air to build trust, to get ourselves in tune with the leadership game and get the sound down. You know, absolutely none of that will work unless your body's lined up. Unless your body's lined up. And we do the weirdest things physically. Now, I'm not talking about looking beautiful, about standing up and looking nice. It's not necessarily about looking nice. It's actually about thinking of yourself as an instrument for the sound and for communication. And to do that, the body really needs to be in a certain shape. And we get that wrong in many ways. I very often see men standing like this on stage. Do you ever see that? Yeah, women never do it. You don't see Mariana standing up and going, right, any questions? and the research with men is that they've researched it with gorillas. And it is an implication the further the legs are apart, the stronger the message is about the size of the genitalia. And funnily enough, I was working with a guy who was head of a jail the other day, and I said, okay, I'm going to hit you with a difficult question. And he's standing like this, and he said, okay, what is it? And went out like that. And we do it habitually. They don't know they're doing it. And I very often tell this story about a general manager I worked with, and every time he had a difficult question, he'd say, any questions? Yeah. You must have seen that before. Yep. And of course there's pocket billiards, you know, all of those things. I have men say to me, but I just put one hand in the pocket, isn't that all right? Well, what do you think? No. So that's what men do. Men will go back to, got a question? Great, what do women do? Women do this. Now we are down in gorilla territory because one of the species is saying, "Cop this," and the other one of the species is saying, "No way." And, you know, Danielle was saying to me, if I'd known we had to stand up and present like the physio group did, wasn't that brilliant? Yes. She was saying, oh God, if I knew we had to stand and present, I wouldn't have put my card in the basket. Did anyone else think that? And then said, but I'm getting better. I'm getting up and putting myself in situations to do it. You know what? It's not about putting yourself in situations to do it, because we can practice. We practice the wrong things. And if you're getting up constantly and going, good morning, everyone, and thinking, gee, I'm getting more and more confident, you know, you actually just get weaker and weaker and weaker. We have to know what the game is. It's like playing cricket. You know, if you don't know they're trying to get you out by hitting those three things there, you can't win the game. And we know that psychologically we want our sound to come out of our full body to be fully who we are, whole body resonating. Then we need the body lined up. So we don't need this and other permutations and variations. A lot of women who've had success as a small child will say. Are there any questions? Or wherever you've seen it, haven't you? Wherever we've had success, and one of my favourites was a woman who would stand up and go. Sometimes I look and I go, oh no, this is candid camera. But people don't know they're doing it, and you probably don't even see people doing it because we have a switch in our head, and that switch is not, oh, that's unusual, that man's playing with his genitals and that lady's... You don't do that. All we do is the minute we see something slightly weird, we go, click, and we switch off. So, you know, it's not about attracting people's attention, it's not about distracting people's attention. So what is the business position? Classic business position. Classic business position, feet apart and parallel shoulder width. Parallel feet, not feet sticking out, too unbalanced, too weak. Parallel. Could I ask those people who have a birthday in July to stand up, please? Great, July babies standing up. So what? Watch them. What position? Oh, well done. You're good. So we go to a thing called rest position, and most of us don't know what a rest position is. So did any of them do this? You stand up and you go, oh, okay. It's kind of like if I keep busy, you know, no one will notice, you know. And so, and when we run out of clothes to alter, we just start scratching. Yeah. Are they, watching them, are they on one leg? Are they on two legs? Are they holding themselves up? Hands behind the back, where are the hands? Is the body lined up? Don't know where to go. Okay, let's work with our team here and work out where it should be. It's feet apart and parallel, and it's weight on 2 feet. Looking at it from the two perspectives, if I've got weight on one leg, can you see if I go, are there any questions? Because this actually says, seriously, tell someone who cares. Because I don't. That's the non-verbal perspective, but actually, from the perspective of bringing your true self and your whole power to the engagement, if you aren't on 2 feet, you can't then decide to come forward, go back. You'd have to actually, you know, do an extra move to get there. So 2 feet and parallel. This is the position you go to whenever you have to stop, or if I suddenly say, stand up, July baby, should that ever happen to you again? Anybody born today, actually? Oh, happy birthday. Yeah. Oh, and Lottie, what an honour to have you here today. Yay! And the royal baby's birthday. Oh! No one got excited about that. I thought it was exciting. Anyway, so we've got our feet apart and parallel. Our knees are loose. Our pelvis is under, because our power's there. Our body is up straight. You know, Obama learns that you never go. Yes, we have an excuse down here. Anyone else who leaves, go to hell. Bye-bye. When you come in front of the vertical, you lose your power. We stay behind the vertical for power. And it's very important as women that we do that because we cannot afford to depower. It's, you know, the same rules for men as it is for women. It's just that men get away with it more than women do. So if a woman wants to be powerful and says, I don't like it, that's not powerful, that's aggressive. Can you see that's aggressive? Pretty obvious, and yet people do it all the time. Should be behind here. Yes? What did you want? Question over there? You know, it's not powerful. It's down, back, up. So where do the hands go? Well, they don't go here. They don't go here because that is our genital area, in case you missed it. And they don't go behind there because it throws you off. They don't go here because that's where the diaphragm is. They don't go here because that is called fig leaf and turns very quickly to flashing fig leaf. And we can't risk that because we'll flick the switch. So if you can put them here, that's great, but you might notice we get odd variations on that, like the claw. The claw, or as Tony Abbott's done, is turn the hands like that. You seen that? The hands, the flat of that's not good. So we bring the hands to the front and we put the hand on the wrist. And what that does is gives you an asymmetry. And if you need an example, go look at Obama. So how do they look? Their new rest position. Great, sit down. Could I ask August babies to stand up, please? August babies are just going to stand up and go shoom. Perfect, perfect, shoom. You know where to go, no clothes altering, nothing else, just straight there. Shoom, excellent. Of course, there are no rules. There are no rules except don't fiddle with your genitals. But if you do need a position, this is a very useful one, and try to adopt it if you feel it works for you. Great, sit down, brilliant. So we've got our initiation of sound that we want at all times to keep our voice in control and send psychological messages of caring and trust. How we do that is we actually take our rest position. We don't talk in rest position, we don't walk in rest position, but we use it as our stopping position. So you might say, hi, my name's Louise. It's just a punctuation. Or if I were to say, are there any questions? It might be, are there any questions? Open and rest position. It's the position you go to, you then answer questions with your hands out of rest position. But so many people ask me, where do your hands go? How do I stand? Well, that's how you do it. And you don't do it because you look beautiful. You do it because you can initiate your true self and your sound. Now, if we're not standing like this as we're talking, what are we doing with our hands? Has anybody noticed that Kevin Rudd has suddenly started using gestures? Yeah. Well, you see, this is what I'm saying about gestures. We need to use gestures, but if you're going to do it, do it before your Prime Minister or Deputy Prime Minister, because you can practice. You can go up and talk to people and say, 3 things I want to talk about, and go, and get away with it, because you'll get it right next time, and they're not going to stop and go, you all right? You're weird. Whereas if you're in front of the camera, it's almost too late to start changing your patterns because they're going to look weird and you're going to get them out of sync. So let's discover for us who can practice where we will go. So we've been through to bring our true selves to the engagement. We've got our body lined up. We're not fiddling with our genital. And now we're looking at our gestures. Right. So where is the future? Could you point to me to the future, please? Ready? Future, go. See, I'm not seeing some hands going, ooh, every which way. Do you know they studied this in ancient Rome? There's a book, Quintilian wrote about this 300 years ago. And I'm not making it up, people have used it through the centuries. The place for the future is in front of you and to the side, and you grab the future. Now, obviously, Hitler used that to lead a nation, and you don't want to go back to your workplace and start going, we must move forward to the future. But the way to get away with that is actually to soften the hand. People don't relate that as Hitler, if you don't have the flat hand. And that is the future. So you're pointing to the future. Give me the future again, out there, to the side, slightly up. Yep, great. If that's the future, where's the past? Other hand, other hand. In Western culture, the timeline goes through us. In other cultures, it doesn't. But in Western culture, the future is there, the past is here. If that's the future, that's the past, where's the present? Here, possum gesture, straight down, and very classic facilitator's gesture. Today, what we're going to do. Today, what we're going to do is this. So that's the present, future, past, and maybe I have, not everything in the past is thrown, but I have lessons from the past which I pack into a suitcase. So I might say to you, today we're talking about presentation. I want to do things differently to what you've done in the past. And that's not to say that you're not doing some really great things. But we're going to look at different things as you move forward into the future. That's called congruent gesturing. It's got my hands off my body, which is good for you, but it's also good for me to express myself because it's unblocking who I am. Other ones might be, if I'm thinking visually, where do people go when they're thinking visually with their eyes? Do you know? Up. Very commonly they go up. So if I were talking about the vision for our organisation, I'd want your eyes to go up. In which case, my eyes stay here, but I'd put my hands up like that and I'd say, what I want to do today is talk about the vision for the organisation. So can you try that? Because it'll feel really weird if you've never done it before. Hands up like that, vision for the organisation. And then I want your feedback, which is an auditory concept. Eyes go sideways. So for anything auditory, try this. If you thought that was weird, this is going to really hurt. But it doesn't look as silly as it feels. So I'd love your feedback, but today what we're going to do is talk about the vision for our organisation and get your feedback. It doesn't look as silly, does it? Now, I want to know if you're happy. That's a feeling. It's called a kinesthetic concept. Eyes go down for that, so we take hands down. Could you put your hands down like that? So we've got visual, auditory, kinesthetic. The future, the past, the present, lessons from the past, and then maybe we have good and bad, and if we have numbers, we put them into a TV screen here. You know, a lot of people do what I call, not to be offensive, but masturbation, by saying, there's two things I want to talk about today. Well, who is that for, do you think? You know, bizarre. So, we've got our numbers up here. So, if I were talking congruently, I'd say today we're talking about the vision. I'd love your feedback. I think it's going to be quite different from what you did in the past. Not to say that you don't have tremendous expertise, but we're going to look at how that's going to work for us into the future. That's congruent gesturing. If I were to show you in contrast, if I did incongruent gesturing, and I'd say, today what I'd like to do is look at the vision for the organisation and just check out what, you know, because it's going to be different for some people, and that, you know, I think that will be important. And that's not to say that you haven't got lessons, you know, from the past, but I'd like to work with that and just see how that works for you into the future. It's distressing, really, because it's difficult to talk with incongruence, but it's even more difficult to listen to people who speak incongruently. And what happens is that we have our we have situations where what happens is maybe we're in a room full of men and they're not behaving in ways to which we're accustomed, or a room full of women and they're not behaving in ways that we're too happy with. And it is too easy to fall into the feeling of saying, oh, you've got to do this and you've got to do that, instead of actually going, what am I doing? What is my communication response and how do I respond to difficulty? And how do I bring my full self to the engagement instead of being thwarted by everything about me? We need to realise that stress grabs us at the diaphragm. It's something we never talk about, and I promise it's the new skill of leadership. You must know where your diaphragm is. You must know how to unjam it, not by relaxing and taking a deep breath in, because so often it doesn't work because of the jam of the diaphragm. We need to kick it free. Like that. And we then need to understand the psychology of our airflow and how we initiate it. And we need to know how to hold the body so that we can initiate sound. And to do that, we have rest position, which I promise you will save your life. Rest position standing, rest position seated, you put your hands asymmetrically on the table. And then to be able to actually then express yourself and to keep that flow, rather than what a lot of us do, which is jam our arms in and then say it's going to be fabulous, fabulous. That's not fabulous, that's fabulous. And can you hear how it changes the voice? Fabulous, fabulous, boo! And we get closer to the low, slow and loud voice of leadership. So to finish up, I'd love to combine all those exercises and just ask you to leave that dessert for 1 second. And could we all stand up, please? Could we go to our rest position? Could we breathe out? Stomach goes in. Excellent, excellent. Could we try a note? Could we hear the back of the room do their ha, please? Ready, go. Yeah, I thought they were cheating, but no. And then we want to do some gestures. We want to get the arms off, so we might try Let's try that together. We'll turn that into a little something with our gestures and try somewhere over the rainbow. You ready? Somewhere over the rainbow. It's up high. Way up high. We're going to hear of something. There's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Let's cut to the end and get powerful. If happy little bluebirds fly. Sitting back, we start soft. If happy little bluebirds fly. Open your arms, open your arms. Beyond the rainbow. Lean back in a questioning way and say, why, oh, why? Open your mouth. Can't I? Well done.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Louise Mahler. You certainly know how to get a room up off its feet. And before you escape, yes, indeed. Louise is very happy to take questions. So we only have a few minutes, but does anybody have a question for Louise?
Yes.
Yes. I'll just repeat that. I'd like to ask how the gestures work when you're sitting down.
Yes. So what you can do with gestures when you sit is obviously you don't want to be sitting at the table going, hi, my name is Louise. But you can put them into a box like a TV screen and say, I want to have a look at the vision and get everybody's feedback just to see how you feel about it. Can you see I'm actually doing exactly the same thing but just in a smaller box? And if you've got a table, you can use things on the table and point and touch.
Okay, thank you.
Question?
We have one here.
Oh, here.
With new technology like video phones and video conferencing, should we be doing in that type of environment to show that we're engaged or how to relate well to people?
I'll just repeat it for the benefit of everybody. Just in relation to video conferencing and that type of technology, what do we do to engage people in that circumstance?
Well, the voice becomes really important. So actually having the voice in a pitch, you know, when we have a visual preference, you know, the hands go up. We say I want you to think about the vision. Actually, not only do hands go up, but very often for people who have visual preference, the voice goes up as well. And you know, we tend to go up. And that is very useful if you're thinking visually, but it doesn't send good signals. It takes you out. So to be very aware of what your learning preference is, where your voice is, initiating sound, and also keeping the voice flowing as you're answering questions across that medium, rather than breaking the sound. Can you hear how annoying that is? Like, that is just so annoying. And then the whole listening thing is exactly what your brilliant is, which is the head nods. The head nods and the eyes blink, and face movement, because you can't move the body. That's the problem. Yeah. Does that help?
There's one down the back. Yes, I've got a microphone down there.
Hi, Louise. I've really enjoyed it. My name's Jo.
I do.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I have a question for you, having worked in a lot of male-dominated industries. And I'm conscious that, especially in my younger years, if I went like this, particularly the male audience in the past would be concentrated here.
Yeah.
So how do I actually get the focus here? Sorry. How do I get the focus here for what I need, the message I'm trying to communicate, without distracting with anything else?
Yep. That's so fascinating. You know, in the last couple of days working with this group of men, the words condom and mistress were mentioned within 5 minutes of that meeting beginning. I can promise you, boys, that in a room of women, we never talk about condoms or mistresses, ever. And yet it seems to slip into conversation. I don't know how that happens. And they actually, I once read a research to say that men think of sex every 15 seconds. Some people say once a day, all day, but it's apparently every 15 seconds. So, you know, the danger is that if you hold yourself open, you know, that's where the attention will go. But it depends on how you do it. So if the arms are like this, it doesn't attract attention. And we are always drawing attention to our sexuality. I worked with one politician, and every time there was a difficulty, she'd grab for her hair and go. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but that's a very strong message saying, I'm just a girl. You know, it's got a sexual message. So suddenly you could tell it's getting difficult. You know, drawing attention to sexuality. And often when we hold our arms in here, what we tend to do are some really extraordinary gestures. So, you know, there's a couple of very common couple of points that I want to make. And, you know, so it's not a better alternative to draw yourself in. Can you see, actually, you are drawing attention more strongly than if, boom. You know, and you don't have to go like this, but that's what I call a drip on the change plan. It's a drip that goes, I can't do that because, and it's not a reason to not do it. We just have to bring it out in the open and go, well, how could I work with that and what were the alternatives? And I think that the thing is you just need to do it in a way that doesn't, you know, display yourself. And it is better than holding in, which actually accentuates it more.
One more question.
Hello. So what I've been thinking about from the start of your talk is the diaphragm breathing.
Yeah.
And is that an easier thing for, I guess, men because of like history of, I guess, a lot of Western and mostly Eastern civilizations is the predominant male leadership, and so is that something that is genetically easier for them to master, or is it just that it's been sort of inbred in our cultures to never be taught to the females, sort of?
Well, great question. You know, a lot of women, what they do is that they are jamming the diaphragm because they want to not be seen to be fat. And I worked with one lady who was an editor of a fashion magazine. And was she that skinny or that skinny? Now, she walked like this all the time. And the thing is that when we don't breathe correctly, there's a dual effect of breathing correctly, is that you actually massage the intestines. It's a health benefit. And if we hold this area like this, I can tell you, I said to her, any bowel problems? Which might seem like an odd question, but she said, oh, why do you ask that? Because yes, you know, I have to do, you know, all sorts of things I'm not going to discuss over lunch. But, you know, that she had massive bowel problems. It is not healthy to hold your stomach in. And I know, you know, I've got a fat stomach, you don't. And most people don't see it. They don't see it when you breathe down here. It's the natural thing to do. Now, so there's that stops women, but actually, men are worse at it than women. Men are much less aware physically and much less able to unjam their diaphragm once it's jammed. Men get away with the jammed diaphragm because their voices are lower, because their vocal instrument's bigger, which means that they can have a jammed instrument and still not put themselves out of the realm of leadership. Whereas women, when they jam their diaphragm and then have a visual preference, you know, it's not and then play with their hair, you know, it just puts us right out of the game.
Thank you very much, Louise. Thanks for joining us. Please thank Dr. Louise Mahler.